All right, folks, we're now joined by Beverly Low. She is the guidance counselor at Manchester Essex Regional High School and all the former dean of first-year students at Colgate University. Thanks for joining us, Bev.
It's good to be here, Corey and Heather. Glad to join you today.
So I want to ask right off the top your reaction to the cancellation of the school year, and then can you just tell us how this is impacting juniors? Because we spend a lot of time talking about seniors losing prom and graduation is going to be in flux, but juniors are affected for 2 different school years.
Yeah. So I think that at least in Manchester, Essex, our regional district, I felt good. We have great leadership and we kind of paced it out. And I thought that, we were prepared for a couple different scenarios. So I don't think anyone was shocked about the closure of the school year, but it wasn't, when it became real, we knew that we needed to put some things in place. So juniors, certainly, this would, if we were in school, this would be the time of year that we would be meeting individually with our juniors anyway to talk about post-secondary planning, career exploration, college applications. There's some tasks we asked them to do. This would be the time of year that they'd be looking for teacher recommendations if they were applying to college. They'd have a testing plan, which is now completely blasted out the window because all of this, the SAT canceled all of their spring tests. They were holding on to that June test date for a while, and then they've canned that as well. Also, the AP program. We've got, college-bound students, most of whom are in, 1 or more AP courses. There's concern around that. How is that going to be looked at if the test is modified? So we've been answering a lot of questions and trying to get information out in doses and not, when you're working remotely, the most important thing is for our juniors to stay engaged with their teachers. So here you have my counseling team. We're trying to pace out what our contact is and not overwhelm the students. I think now, knowing that we have 6 weeks, we can map that out a little bit better. But I think one of the areas is that I've heard from a few students how frustrating it is. They had, of course, April vacation has come and gone, and that's usually a time when they go and visit campuses. So they're starting to work on their college lists, and they're doing some of the virtual tours that are available, but there's no substitute for stepping foot on a college campus. So we are, we're in constant communication with them, and I've had 6 or 7 Zoom one-on-ones with my juniors, and I know the other counselors have as well. So they've moved up the food chain. We're still working with our seniors on scholarships, but we're really putting a little extra energy in TLC with our juniors right now.
It's interesting. I wonder, do you anticipate colleges and universities relaxing their admission standards because of this?
I wouldn't say they would be relaxing their standards. I would say I was just on, there's 2 websites I've been tracking. One is NACAC, the National Association for College Admission Counseling. They have a really nice tool on their website about changes in policies and admission details and requirements. About 1,100 colleges and universities in the U.S., I think it's like 1,130 at today's count, have gone test optional for the class of 2021. So what that means is a student can apply to 1,100 and change colleges without test scores. They don't necessarily want the ACT or the SAT. And I think that's been a trend that we've been seeing in general, is that some very, well-known colleges and universities have moved towards test optional. Tufts in particular, they've been thinking about it for a while, and I think this they want to try it out for 3 years and see, and they're going to do a little research and study and see if that, if the predictors, looking at GPA and transcripts seem to be better predictors of college level work than how you perform on one Saturday, on a test. So in terms of GPA standard, everything else will be the same. In fact, I've talked with a couple of admission officers, and it seems like, they will be looking not more in-depth, but maybe giving the teacher recommendations and the students' actual essays and how they respond to writing supplements, that will get a little more attention. they don't have the test scores. And the other thing, Corey and Heather's, junior transcripts are going to look different this year. I mean, we've moved to, the grading is credit received, you pass. And so they've got a half of year of calculated grades into their GPA. And then spring is kind of, they'll get the grades and the credit, or they'll get the credit, but it's going to look different. And I think every high school in the US is going to look a little different.
And returning to those AP courses, Bev, so the students are fulfilling all the work, right? So
correct.
They just simply won't be getting a grade for that work. But I think the content will be visible to these colleges, right?
Absolutely. And the way the College Board, they will still take the AP exam, but they will be taking the AP exam that corresponds with the course at home. It will be an online, they'll receive credentials from the College Board at the time of their designated exam. It'll be a 45-minute open book, open notes based on what they should have learned in the course. So it will be very content focused. And I kind of like that approach, I think. It means a lot. So the student, let's say I'm taking AP US History at Manchester Essex High School. I still have AP US History. I've completed the course, all the content. If I choose to take the AP exam in May, that score would be for pre-matriculation credit anyway. It doesn't affect the grade. So the method of the testing doesn't really come into play that much. And the AP designation still appears on the transcript.
And of course, people don't really know about next fall. And let's just start with testing. Are you hearing any kind of a conversation that maybe the SAT would go into this remote format?
We're watching that very carefully. I'm a newsie, and I watch a lot of. I try to keep track. I'm on Twitter. There's a couple of professionals in enrollment management that I follow, and I'm just trying to curate some of that information. The buzz right now is that that's a possibility, and that moving to an online format may happen. There's also a really big movement in the US right now to move everybody test optional. Like there's a lot of, there's pro College Board and con College Board, and there's kind of two sides to that. So it'll be interesting to see. I think years ago, you would take the SAT in a cafeteria, you'd be on a table with a bunch of people. It's too soon to say how many people would be allowed in a test center. And if they have the September test, that could shift dramatically. The other thing is a push for test centers not to be at high schools, but maybe have colleges and universities who have more facility, more space, and maybe more of an ability to spread students out, that they might take on some of that as test centers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, normally this time every year at 1623 Studios, we have Manchester Essex students as part of the SCORE program interning with us. What is going on with intern? I mean, if you can talk about internships or an outlook for summer jobs and placement for these students.
Sure. So SCORE is going on. And SCORE is our Senior Choice of Relevant Experience. That's what SCORE stands for. So when we get to April 10th this year, that was the end of Q3. In any other year, our seniors would go right on their SCORE projects. And that could be at 1623 Studios, could be working with trustees of reservations on trail cleanup, variety of things, shadowing a doctor, a dentist, etc. Well, that's obviously changed because of social distancing and health concerns. So we do have, I don't know off the top of my head what percentage of the senior class, but I would think it's at least half, if not 60%, are doing some type of SCORE project online based. So some of them might be working on collecting data or doing some kind of video or presentation projects. But it is going on. And then for the seniors who are not, they might still be taking AP courses, or they might be working. We have a few students who are employed, at grocery stores and other places where they're essential workers and some of the takeout restaurants and things like that. But they were given the opportunity. And so students who were ready to transition their project to an online or remote project were able to do that.
So Bev, so what has been your personal message to these students struggling with the new now? I mean, we're all struggling with it, but I mean, you really have to feel for the kids in this unprecedented era. What are you telling them?
You know, just, you know, to take a breath, and to, you know, stay connected. I think, you know, for teenagers, that's how they're wired. They're social animals, and to not have that interaction and to be around their friends, they've had to modify. Some of our students have done some really cool things. A couple of them are doing like an online talent show, and students are able to submit their, you know, what they're singing and whatever they're doing, and they're staying connected that way. But in terms of, you know, my message right now is, okay, guys, we've got 6 weeks to go. Just stay in touch with us. It doesn't, you know, it could be just, hey, I'm doing fine, or I got a quick question, or just staying connected somehow. And that, have an open mind. When I was a dean of first year students at Colgate, one of the things I used to say to our admission office was, look for those gems, you know, look for the kids who maybe work part-time or can demonstrate an ability to overcome disappointment or discomfort. Like, we're going through a ton of disappointment and discomfort right now. And I think that, you know, there's all those expressions about, you know, being stronger through adversity. But I think that those that take this situation, you can be sad. It's okay to be angry and upset, but take it and say, okay, how am I going to do things differently? And how can I move forward past this? And I think those folks will do just fine.
There's so much anxiety around these years, whether inside the family with the parents and the children. Are you offering any sort of advice to manage that? Because they almost have to go in reverse. They were probably, many of these kids are trying to be overachievers at this time, right? And they have to turn it all off. So what do you say to that, Bev?
You know, I'm actually a fan of the pause button and self-reflection, but that's just a personal thing. We have, I mean, I feel very good about what our district is doing in terms of every Friday, our superintendent's message goes out, our director of curriculum and technology, and in that are resources for parents and all different ways to connect. We also have a great community-based website, ME Hub, and a lot of that is on the Manchester Essex District website. So we, and I think we're a small enough community that we are aware of people who might need a little extra assistance and have been able to reach out appropriately to those folks. And just not to overburden them and keep sending a bunch of emails with information, but just saying, hey, take a look at this. This, you know, this might be a way to connect. It is. But on the other hand, Heather, I'm a glass half full person, so I'm thinking that families are having some good conversations about this. I actually have been on Zoom with a couple of families, an 8th graders coming into 9th grade too, but also a couple of seniors, just walking through the selection process. They've got letters and financial aid awards to look at. Same thing with juniors. Okay, sometimes when you can put the family around the camera and talk to them in general, it kind of, you know, brings it down, you know, the anxiety down a little bit, just to have the questions answered. And no question is silly at this time.
Yeah, right. I'm sure you're a big help to them.
I hope so.
Well,
it's hard
great.
when you're online and then you don't hear from someone for a couple of days. I can't really just go down the hallway and ask them, you know?
Yeah. Well, I wanted, so yeah, how are you reaching out to students, or are they reaching out to you?
Little combination of both. I think when this first happened, so, and we had, you know, on March 11th would have been our Cape Ann Career and College Fair. That is with Rockport, Gloucester, and Essex Tech. So right around that time, the following week, once we knew that we were closed for a period of time, I got 2 email requests from juniors to have Zoom meetings or online meetings. So they reached out right away. Then we started to kind of roll out regular communication with our students. We also, as most high schools in the US, we use a platform called Naviance that we subscribe to. And it's a toolbox for students. It's all career exploration and post-secondary planning. But that's another way, I would say, what I would call a low impact way, not intruding by sending a direct email, but we can post messages to that the whole class can see.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be in touch for sure, Beverly. I mean, I know it's pretty heady times.
Yeah.
But we love to chat. We'll probably have to follow up with you soon just to see, how the next month or so plays out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting and tracking it carefully, and just trying to stay one step ahead if we can,
Right.
Well, thanks for your time.
Thanks a lot.
Be well.
Have a good day.
Yeah.
You too. Bye.
Bye.